Okay, it's Joshua here with I Cut Grass, and it's January the 11th, 2023. Before I get any further, I want to ask if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so now. And when you watch this, or if you see any of my videos, please share them with anyone that you think could benefit from having them, and ask them to subscribe too. Still to this point, since I've been doing these videos are done really, honestly and sincerely to help people. To avoid the things that I've gone through. So that said, what I want to talk about today briefly is something I've been going through over the past few days, and that's about business insurance. And here I've talked about business insurance in the past, but today I want to talk about what happened with me, and what I would encourage you to do. Understand that I was also an insurance agent at one time in the past, but what I would encourage you to consider doing to avoid this happening to you. Okay, so I had been with Erie Insurance for several years, and I had a local rep who was mostly responsive. If I ever had questions about my policy, I would email them and ask them to email the answers back. And I'm going to encourage you to do that. If you've watched my videos, you know I've said this in the past, but always ask your questions about coverages via email. Because if you ever get into a situation where you have a loss and you were told something over the phone and it wasn't true, you really don't have any proof. So include it or have it answered in email, and then e-file it to a folder in your email box, and then also print out a copy and keep it in with your your business insurance files. I do that as well. You've got it in both two different places, so you have something to refer to. There are a lot of times at night I would wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and think, oh man, what if this happened? Do I have insurance coverage or whatever? So it doesn't have to be a long narrative of questions at one time, but just as they come up, you want to forward them to make sure that you understand, your policy and make sure that you're covered. But anyway, what had happened is my insurance company or my agent was somehow acquired by a larger company called Walker Hughes. Okay, I don't know how exactly what happened, if they merged, if they were bought out or whatever. But I received a phone call from my insurance agent in early December. I say early, the first half of December in 2022, saying, "Hey, we've been bought out, and we're merging." Actually, is what they told me, and we're now going to be able to offer you, competing policies, save you some money, but we're not going to be continuing with Erie Insurance anymore. And I told them, I said, okay. I said, well, I don't know how long this was in the works, but my policy obviously expires about a month from now. And I need you to, get back with me ASAP, so I have the estimates and the proposals, so I have the opportunity to get through them and visit each policy to determine, which one I want to go with. And it wasn't necessarily, for me, when it comes to insurance, it's not based primarily on premium. That's a small percentage for me. I want to make sure that the policy covers my needs, and I've got an individual that can answer me when I have questions. That's my biggest concern. I don't want to have areas of loss, or I want to minimize those as much as possible. So anyway, my first policy, expiration date was coming up on my general liability, which was a 5-star liability, and it expired January the 8th. So on the 6th, which was last Friday, I got a phone call at 5:15 p.m. as I was leaving my home to go to dinner with my family. Hey, this is such and such with Walker Hughes, letting you know that your policy is expiring on Sunday, and then your auto is going to expire on the 11th. Your insurance, we actually bought out your insurance company or something to that nature, and I want to work on getting you some estimates. And I just flat out told them, I said, I was notified about this at the start of December. And I said specifically, don't wait to the last second to contact me. I said, now you're doing exactly what I asked you not to do. And presuming that I have nothing to do in my life over the next day and a half, but to review any policy that you might happen to send me whenever I get it, even if I had it right now, which I didn't have it. So, Mr. Russ, we're not going to let you, have a lapse in coverage. We'll have you insured through our office. So come Sunday, I get an email with one competitor's proposal or one provider's proposal, auto owners. They gave me a general liability and an auto policy. No explanation, no, hey, call me so we can discuss the details. So then they called me on Monday. Well, the policy had expired. I already had a lapse. That aggravated the snot out of me. If you have a lapse in coverage, that negatively affects you and can increase your premium. So I found a local Erie rep, and I called him And he said, yeah, I can get you down. He said, I'm going to need some information from you because I'm not the agent that wrote your policy. So I'll need to take some more questions from you and I can get something to you. He said, but the 5-star general liability that Erie Insurance has offered is no longer available. And I said, you know what? I said, I just need to make sure that I'm covered. I said, but everybody involved in this whole situation, excluding yourself, has dropped the ball. He said, well, how do you figure? I said, Erie Insurance knew what was happening. They knew that they weren't going to be in business anymore. Well, that's debatable, Joshua. I said, okay. I said, well, tell me this then. If they knew they weren't going to offer the 5-star general liability anymore, and I've been an insured customer for so long, why didn't they proactively send me a letter? I mean, they're always sending me stuff to try to buy other insurance, life insurance, accidental insurance, or umbrella coverages upon umbrella coverages. But you know what I never get? I never got an email stating that policy was not going to be available anymore after the renewal date, in my case, early January of 2023. And I never got a note at all that it was not going to be available anymore. So it just aggravated the crap out of me. So where I'm getting at with this is, it doesn't matter how long you've been with your agent and how great of a person they might be. The reality is, beginning about 2 months from the date of your expiration date, you need to reach out to your insurance agent. And here's why. I don't ever get a phone call from my insurance agent each year asking me about renewal changes. Hey, Joshua, do you have any more equipment this year? Did you hire any employees? Do you need increased limits? Let's go over and make sure that you don't have any areas of exposure. That never happens. And when I ask insurance agents why, they say, well, we just have too many customers. I understand. You have too many customers that you can't service me any longer, but you're happy to go ahead and take the annual commission payment that you get for servicing my policy when you haven't serviced it in the first place. You never reached out to me and talked with me. And that's just the sad reality of what it is. Now, many years ago, before I got started in the business myself, I used to sell insurance. So I'm aware of how some of this works. But ideally, the insurance company, whether it's the company itself or the agent, more directly the agent, should be reaching out to you to make sure that everything is together. In my case, I have different insurance policies for different things that I need insurance for. This is a great opportunity for that agent to reach out and increase his or her, commissions by contacting me and saying, hey, let's get a competing estimate on this coverage because you don't have it with us or whatever. They've never done it. So ultimately, what has been the trend since 2020 is I increasingly have to look out for myself. You're going to have to do the same as well, or you can find yourself in a situation like me where you get a phone call at 5:15 in the evening on a Friday stating your policy expires in a day and a half. We're working on getting you multiple estimates, and then you don't even get an estimate until Sunday, and then when Sunday comes, you get one provider's estimate. And the policy doesn't make any sense. And flat out, the policy didn't meet my business needs in any capacity. Because what had happened is, by Sunday, my general liability expired. On Tuesday the 11th, my auto was set to expire. So when they called me on Friday or Monday and I asked them about the commercial auto, they said, we don't have you for commercial auto. We have you for commercial general liability. No, you actually had me for both. You bought out the insurance company that I was with previously, and the general liability expired yesterday. The auto doesn't expire for a couple more days. It's basically just a case where a company took on more than they can handle. They bit off more than they can chew, and as a result, there are, as you might notice when you take on more customers and you expand your area, there are what's called growing pains. Might not be able to service this customer anymore. Might not be able to service that customer. I want to be as positive as I can, as much as I can, but there have been a series of really bad things that just happened that I went through the last 2 months of the year within my business. It's a bunch of baloney that you shouldn't have to deal with. And I feel that reviews are appropriate. I'm not going to go too far in the detail about things, and I'm not going to sit there and attack somebody's mother, but if somebody does me wrong, and especially when I've been a good customer, I might very well go on and write them a negative review, explaining my experience. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing, because if you don't do that, there's less of a probability that they're going to feel attached in any way to service you. Now, this doesn't mean this is every agent. It's been my experience with all my agents, sadly. You might have an agent that always reaches out to you, and that's great. I would encourage you to do everything that you can to keep that. But be proactive when it comes to your insurance. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel, share it. Maybe you could even cut and paste a web address and post it on your Facebook, man, or someplace where there's a discussion here or there. I'd like to try to increase my exposure as much as possible. I have a little over, I think, 1,100 subscribers right now. It's nothing major, but gosh, I'd like to get to 10,000 so I can help people. So if you have questions, please post them below. If you have any contributions or opinions you want to share, post them below as well. I'm open to everybody's stuff. As I've said before, your way of doing business might be different than my way of doing business, and that's awesome. You get to do what you want to do. I just want to share what has worked with me and what has not worked with me, so hopefully you've got a better probability and better potential to be successful, and maybe avoid some of these bad times and bad experiences that I've had to experience myself. Peace.